Hello everyone, welcome to the ITLS Academy. Our today's lecture is on based on the topic Introduction to Food Processing and Technology. So let's begin our lecture. Okay, the first one is what is food processing? Food processing is the transformation of raw ingredients by physical or chemical means into food or a food into the other forms. Food processing is the set of methods and techniques used to transform raw ingredients into food or to transform food into other forms for consumption by humans and animals either in the home or by the food processing industry. Let's see the introduction of food processing. The productive enterprises concerned with the food processing known as the food processing industry. Food processing typically takes clean, harvested crops or butchered animal products and uses these to produce attractive, marketable, and often long shelf life food products. The similar processes are used to produce animal feed, and extreme examples of food processing include the delicate preparation of deadly industrial cheese, production of fugu fish, or preparing a space food for consumption under zero gravity. The food processing sector is highly fragmented industry. It widely comprises of the subsegments such as it includes the processing of fruits and vegetables, milk and milk product processing, beer and alcoholic beverages, meat and poultry processing, marine products processing, and we take the grain processing, packaged or convenience food and packaged drinks. So these are the areas where the food processing is useful, where the food processing is done. A huge number of entrepreneurs in this industry are small in terms of their production and operations and are highly concentrated in unorganized segment. This segment account for more than 70% of the output terms of the volume and 50% in terms of value. Though the organized sector seems comparatively small, it is growing to much faster rate. Okay, what is the reason why it should be processed? Why the food should be processed in an industry? So it is processed due to of following reasons: to for toxic removal and enables transportation, suits our lifestyle, can also add extra nutrients, and food processing also increases the shelf life of the food, and yes, it improves the taste of food. If it removes toxins, means all the toxins uh, produced in the food are removed by the food processing techniques. And uh, if the structure is maintained properly, if it is maintained in proper temperature and conditions, then it is easy to transport the food material from one place to another. And yes, in processing it also added the some we add some nutrients if it is required, and by processing the shelf life of the product is also increased. Okay, most important qualities to control. We have to maintain the pH of the food. So let's understand, if bacteria thrive in a pH neutral environment, that is, if the pH of the product is 7, items with pH above 8 tend to be very bitter and toxic. That is, it comes under the basic conditions. Foods with pH below 6 tends to be tart or sour, and it attains some acidic environment or some acidic taste in the food. Qualities to control. So in in food processing, we have to maintain the product quality, we have to maintain the nutrients of the product, we have to check all the conditions, and side by side we also have to maintain the quality of that food item, so that it should not thrive of any of the ingredient that is consist in that. So for that, the temperature required is 40 to 140 degree Fahrenheit. That implies that the temperature danger zone, and in this temperature rapid multiplication of microorganisms occur. So if the temperature is less than 40 degree Fahrenheit, the growth of the microbes is very slow. There is very slow growth of microbes, and if it is less than 28 degree Fahrenheit, then no growth or no death of the microorganism occur in that condition. And if the temperature is less than 140 degrees Celsius, greater than, sorry, 140 degrees Celsius, then death of microorganism occur. Qualities to control, it is the next topic. In that, first we are maintaining the pH, then we have to take the concern with the temperature. Now we also have to maintain the moisture content and protein content of the food item. Bacteria needs a high moisture content to grow, to develop, or to spoil the food. So and fungi can grow in lower moisture content. So these are the conditions which is required. If it is maintained properly, then we can avoid the spoilage of the food by the growth of bacteria and fungi. So dry foods won't make you sick, and dry food do spoil if there is occurs some low moisture in it, if it is not dried properly. Bacteria needs protein, whereas fungi do not need such kind of protein for their nutrient requirement or for their growth. Candy and carbohydrate may spoil but don't won't make you sick. Next is a food deterioration. Enzymes break down protein over time. So must deactivate enzymes before food can be stored, and heat destroys the enzyme. What happens when we store food, or if there is a chances for some of the microorganisms that should be present, that if may be present on the surface of the food material, then it should be killed, because the enzymes or because the proteins that are present in that may be spoiled. They If we deactivate the enzymes, then the chances for food to be get spoiled is reduced. So heat can destroy the enzyme, and therefore we can protect the food. Fat and oils can oxidize in storage, and due to which it gives the off flavor, and it needs airtight packaging and antioxidant additives. Next, let's talk about the benefits. Means, what are the benefits? Why we are protecting the food by food processing and processing, and why food is gone through food processing and techniques? What are the benefits for that? So, benefits of food processing includes the toxin removal, as I've discussed earlier. It helps in preservation of the food, easing marketing and distribution task, and increasing the food consistency. And in addition, it increases the seasonal availability of many of the foods, enables transportation of delicate perishable foods across long distance, and also makes many kind of foods safe to eat by deactivating spoilage and pathogenic microorganisms. Processed foods are usually less susceptible to early spoilage than the fresh food, and are better suited for the long distance transportation from the source to the consumer. So processing can also reduce the incidence of the foodborne diseases. So these are the main benefits. These are the main uh, requirements. These are the main plus points and good points of the food processing. So that the spoilage of the food could be prevented, and we get the safe food to eat. But side by side, there occurs a drawback also. The processing of foods have a drawback too. So in drawback, any processing of food can have a slight effect on its nutritional density. For example, if we take the vitamin C is destroyed by heat, and therefore the canned fruits have a lower content of vitamin C than the fresh one. Another safety concern in food processing is the use of food additives. The health risk of any additives will vary greatly from person to person. For example, the sugar as an additive would be detrimental to those with the diabetes. Next is the food processing is typically a mechanical process that utilizes the large mixing and grinding, chopping, and emulsifying equipments in the production process. So these processes inherently introduce a number of contaminants risk in during the processing. So there occurs the chance of contamination of the food. Food manufacturers utilizes the industrial metal detector to detect and reject automatically any metal fragment that could be present in the food. Okay, how it can be processed means, though we are talking about the food processing, so here are some methods how the food processing is gone through different processes, or what are the processes this consist of, what are the techniques it consists of. So, addition of salt, sugars, preservatives, antioxidant, naturally occurring antimicrobial substances. If addition of these substances into the food atom, then it reduces the chances of food spoilage. It makes the food better for us to for consumption, and also it makes safe for use. Salting is the method in which the addition of salt or a brine solution to food is added to decrease the activity of molds, bacteria, and yeast. Also, the processes like curing, drying, freezing, irradiation, pasteurization, fermentation, refrigerated storage, smoking, food concentration, canning also are the techniques that concern in the food processing technology. These are the methods by which food has been processed. Taking the first one, currying. The in currying we add the chemical compounds such as, for example, sodium nitrate or uh, sodium nitrite is added to the food to slow down the growth of bacteria. Drying is the process of extraction of moisture by either by sun or air or heat or vacuum to inhibit the growth of molds and bacteria and yeast. Next is your the freezing free or freeze drying. The freezing of the food and the subsequent removal of water from the frozen food through the use of heat and a vacuum. Next is the irradiation. Your irradiation is the passing energy through food to destroy insects, fungi, or bacteria that causes human disease or cause food to spoil. Next is your pasteurization. Pasteurization is, we know, the heating of the milk and the other liquid which reduces the number of diseases produced by bacteria or other microbes. Next is your fermentation. Fermentation, the use of special bacteria, molds, or yeast to prevent spoilage by converting the elements of the food that spoil easily to stable elements that act as a preservatives. Next is your refrigerated storage. A refrigeration is the lowering of the temperature of the food to inhibit the growth of bacteria, molds, and yeast. Smoking. Smoking is the addition of smoke and heat to preserve the food by the action of chemicals from the smoked food and the partial drying of the food. Next is the food concentration. In this food concentration, heating of food until it boils and removing the water, or partially freezing food and removing water in the form of ice crystal. Last is the canning or aseptic packaging. We say the packing of food in a container, then sealing the container and heating to sterilize the food is the process that comes under the canning. So all these methods, what happens in all this method, it totally works upon the moisture content, totally works upon the pH of the food, and also works upon the temperature of the food. By maintaining these three require these three points, these By maintaining these 3 points, we can save our food, we can process our food so that its shelf life could be increased. Next is your food spoilage and preservation. Let's understand what is a food spoilage. Spoilage is the process in which food deteriorates to the point in which it is not edible to humans or its quality of edibility becomes reduced. Various external forces are responsible for the spoilage of food. Food that is capable of spoiling is referred to as a perishable food, or, for example, rotten apple. What are the reason why it is spoiled? The harvested crops decompose from the moment they are harvested due to the attack from the microorganism, and these includes the bacteria, the molds, yeast, and enzymes. Taking the first one, the bacteria, various bacteria can responsible for the spoilage of food. When bacteria breaks down the food, acids and other waste products are created in the process. While the bacteria itself may or may not be harmful, the waste products may be unpleasant to taste or may even be harmful to one's health. Next is your yeast. Yeast can be responsible for the decomposition of the food with a high sugar content. The same effect is useful in the production of various types of food and beverages such as bread, yogurt, cider, alcoholic beverages, etc. So, how you would know a food is spoiled? There are some signs which indicates the food spoilage condition. Signs of food spoilage may include an appearance different from the food in its fresh form, such as the change in color, a change in texture, and an unpleasant odor or an undesirable taste. The item may become softer than normal. If molds occur, it is often visible externally on the items. A soft whitish fungus or powdery substance that appears on the surface of the food. You might have been seen in lemon and on bread surface. Consequences. After food is spoiled, what are the consequences? Some spoiled foods are harmless to eat and may simply be diminished in quality. But food exhibiting certain types of spoilage may be harmful to consume. Uncooked or undercooked animal flesh that is spoils is typically quite toxic and result in serious illness and sometimes even the death also. So the toxic effect from consuming spoiled food are uh, known as the food poisoning and more properly as foodborne illness. Next, let's talk about the food prevention. A number of methods of prevention can be used that can either totally prevent or delay or otherwise reduce the food spoilage. Preservatives can expand and shelf life of the food, can lengthen the time long enough for it to be harvested, processed, sold and kept in the time consumer home for a reasonable length of time. Refrigeration can increase the shelf life of the certain foods and beverages, though with most items it does not indefinitely expand it. Freezing can preserve food even longer, though even freezing has limitations. As I told, was one of the technique for preservation food. Next is your canning. Canning of food can preserve food for a particularly long period of time, whether canned at home or commercially. Canned food is vacuum packed in order to keep oxygen out of the can that is needed to allow bacteria to break it down. So canning does have the limitation and does not preserve the food indefinitely. Dried foods can last a long time, sometimes nearly indefinitely. So food preservation is the process of treating and handling food to stop or slow down the spoilage, which could go through the loss of quality, edibility, or nutritional value, and thus allow for a longer storage. Preservation usually involves the preventing the growth of bacteria, yeast, fungi, and as well as the retarding the oxidation of fats which cause rancidity. So food preservation can also include the processes which inhibits the visual deterioration that can occur during the food preparation, such as the enzymatic browning reaction in the apples after they are cut. Many processes designed to preserve food will involve a number of food preservations method. Preserving fruit by turning it into jams, for example, involves the boiling to reduce the fruit moisture content and to kill the bacteria yeast. Then also there is an example of sugaring to prevent their regrowth, and sealing within an airtight jar to prevent the recontamination. Thank you for being with us. I hope you have understood all the aspects of the food preservation techniques and processing. For more information, please log on to our website www.itlsacademy.com and register yourself. And yes, do follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, WhatsApp. And yes, do not forget to subscribe our channel ITLS Academy at YouTube. Thank you.